Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest in our native breeds, which are represented now by two laika breeds. And the first one will be East European laika. Let me find out the cursor, please. Oh, it's once again not obedient. Probably, Катюш, наверное, нам нужна помощь Игоря.
Игорь, возвращайте.
Да, курсор меня не слушает.
Ну, а почему он вас не слушает? Наверное, какой...
I don't know, it's not obedient in the beginning as usually. Not obedient. Yes, I see. Now I can roll. Игорь, спасибо большое. Выключаем TeamViewer, да? Good. Okay, now is everything under the control. Thank you so much. So the first one will be, as I told you already, East Siberian laika, and the second one will be another breed, which is not confirmed, but recognized by the FCL on the provisional level, Yakutian laika, very interesting and ancient breed. So, but before to go to the standard, as usually, I will tell you about approach I am going to use for the deeper understanding of the standard provisions. This is the modal approach, which includes two models: biomechanical model of the dogs and harmonic model of the dogs. The first one is devoted to the soundness of the dogs, and the second one to its harmony based on the golden section principle. These models are resulted by long years researches done during 24 years, from 1963 to 1987, and based on the specific of the Soviet breeding strategy. According to that strategy, the only breeding commission of each breed club was in charge of the breeding plan a year. And since 1963, during almost 30 years, I have been chairman of that commission, first in the Doberman Club and later on in the Schnauzer Club. In some periods, that plan included per year about 300 to 400 brood bitches. So now you can imagine what statistics we have operated at that time. It was really huge. So a hypothesis appeared during breeding process were checked for the trustfulness. Biomechanical model of the dogs is the integrity of postulates, and harmonic model of the dogs is the integrity of the harmonious proportions. Later on, I defended the doctoral dissertation in biology named Dog Conformation Improvement through Biomechanical Model of the Dogs. So the previous hypothesis became afterwards status of the scientifically proven facts. Therefore, you can fully trust them and use in your practice. Both biomechanical model and harmonic model are of practical value. Judges can find here universal reference points which help them to increase the objectivity of their assessment. And the breeders can find there the selective algorithm for the acceleration of breeding progress. So this is the preface. And now I will tell you about biomechanical model of the dogs. In the beginning, I will illustrate it using the example of the East Siberian laika. You see in front of you how does it look like from the outside. And this is the inside structure, skeleton inscribed in these outlines. And this is the illustration of the biomechanical model of the dogs. You can see a lot of different lines of different color. But, sorry. I will explain you step by step, postulate by postulate. So the very first postulate is coming now. So the very first postulate name is principle of 2-1-1 ratio, according to which the spinal proportions between actual back, loin, and sacrum are divided. So one more time, actual back, loin, and sacrum. As the actual back, I do understand the thoracic part of the spine, and lumbar part or loin connects this part with the sacrum. And the proportion between these divisions are 2-1-1, where 2 units fall on the thoracic part or back, 1 unit falls on the loin, and the last 1 unit falls on the sacrum. You know that postulate is the statement which doesn't need to be proven. But anyway, after I will tell you about all postulates, I will come back and give the comments, essential comments to this postulate. Now it's a time for the second postulate. You can see blue lines. The first oblique blue line is going along the median line of the shoulder blade. The another one crossing the hips and the iliac tuber. And this is a point of intersection. I will call it conditionally pendulum. It's not really pendulum, but it is easier for me and more convenient to use this name. So the angle under at the axis of the pendulum is 90 degrees. This is the second postulate. Now, the third postulate name is principle of 2 horizontals. These are green lines. One and the second. The first one connects shoulder joint or humerus scapula and hip. The second one connects the elbow joint. I accentuate, not elbow ulna, but elbow joint and knee joint or stifle. And those lines are horizontal. It was the previous postulate illustrated on the right side. I have already told about it. And on the left, you can see the illustration of the next postulate, which name is principle of 2 verticals. 2 red verticals. And you can see that elbow joint is located under the top of widus. And another red line, red vertical line, connects stifle joint and tail set. This illustration belongs to the previous postulate, which will be given when I will come one more time and give the comments, not this time. These postulates is the next one. Length of the body and the distance between the front and rear legs are equal. I will clarify something here. The length of the body I measure from the sternum, not from the joint, not from the humerus scapula. And the end is the end of the buttock or end of the sciatic bone. And distance between front and rear legs I measure when dog is in correct zootechnical stance. What do I mean? That means that the front legs are moved as possible under the body, and they are like vertical columns. And the hind legs are placed behind to the vertical rear pastern. The first postulate is 2-1-1, which define the proportions between proper back, loin, and sacrum. As the actual back, I consider the only thoracic part of the spine. There are several definitions of the back, which includes different ideas. For example, sometimes as the back, the whole top line is considered. Another definition is that the back is the integrity of the thoracic part and lumbar part all together. The third definition is another one, and according to this definition, the back is the rest after the withers to the iliac tuber. And all those definitions do not give the possibility, unlike the first one I gave to you, and will repeat one more time, don't give you the possibility to define the proportions between the spinal divisions, because between the anatomical spinal divisions. The only definition I gave you in the beginning, when I considered as the actual back the thoracic part of the spine, give us the possibility to define the boundaries or borders between anatomical parts of the spinal column. And what is the conclusion? What we can see if we, for the beginning, do not pay any attention to this number, to these numbers. We can see that the actual back is the biggest part of the spine, as well as the loin and sacrum are smallest parts of the spine. These two numbers, 2-1-1, which define the ratio between the anatomical divisions, will be fully explained when we go to the harmonic model of the dogs. Not now. But as I told you, we will not consider now these precise numbers, and only will pay an attention to the qualitative value of these segments, this one, that one, and that one. Long actual back or long thoracic part of the body is the upper part of the brisket, of the rib cage, and length of the thoracic part, length of the actual back, could be used for measuring as the rib cage length. It could be proven that thoracic part or actual back length is 2/3 of this length, 2/3 of the rib cage length. So, long back leads to the long chest, and both dimensions define the big capacity of the chest, the big volume. The third dimension, breadth of the chest, is not required. The only moderate breadth of the chest could be used, no more. Excessive sprung the ribs will lead to the wrong positions of the shoulder blade and upper arm, and will violate the translational movement of the forelegs, which is bad. So, length of the brisket, length of the chest leads to the depth of the chest. And this was proven during my researches in the very beginning. It's very important to remember that the depth of the chest depends on its length, or depends on this length. So, a big volume of the chest is required because of the better development of the lung, heart, and the general blood vessels. This is the reason which could be used for the explanation of this long part on one hand. On the other hand, we can look at the loin, lumbar part, which connects chest part with the rear. So it could be considered as a bridge when dog is standing. Just a moment. I have to say firstly that the last part of the spine is the most vulnerable part of the spine, because 4 last ribs, false ribs, are not supported, are not connected by the breastbone. So this is the mobile support, and that's why this part is vulnerable. So now let us consider the short loin. When the loin is short, then its oscillation amplitude is not a big. And in the process of this oscillation, the last part of the back will be involved at the minimal level. What do I mean? The amplitude of the loin for this part of the back will be similar. And if this amplitude is not big, it will be not big for the last part of the back. So, I believe it is clear. If we lengthen the loin, its amplitude of oscillation appearing from the motive thrust from the rear will increase. Amplitude will be bigger, and bigger will be amplitude of the last part of the back. And in this case, this oscillation will destroy this part of the back with the age and loading. So now I believe it is easy to understand that the long loin is the cause of the soft back. Moreover, the short loin is transmitting the motive thrust from the rear to the front in a short time and do not change the phases of the fore and rear legs, which when dog is trotting should be contrary. But when loin length is increasing, the time of transmission will also increase, and this correct contrary movement could be destroyed, which leads to pacing. Besides that, long loin creates the preconditions of the wobbling of the croup. With other words, with the side rolling. And side rolling is the pacing again. So the reason for the loin to be short is easy, understandable. The next postulate, just a moment. The next postulate, 90 degrees angle at the axis of the pendulum, creates the preconditions for the balance on the dog on the move. Later on, you will see how it works. Now I give the only very short explanation. Moreover, according to this postulate, slope of the shoulder blade and of the iliac bone of the pelvis are not independent, and their dependency is defined on the 90 degrees angle by the axis of the pendulum. So the next postulate with the green lines. Two horizontal lines. When dog is moving, these lines are oscillating contrary. And what happens? Because of the initial horizontal positions of these lines, the hip will go up so much as the knee will go down. So the mutual oscillation will compensate each other. And that's why the disturbances arising from the jumping and falling will not reach, almost not reach the spinal column, which will remain level or horizontal. And this position of the spinal column, this horizontal position, is very important for the majority of the breeds, because the motive thrusts from the rear, following the system of levers, will reach to the iliac tuber to be transmitted along the top line, which is level. So the dog doesn't need to work lifting the center of gravity and will be not tiring. But these lines cannot provide the optimal value of the angulations in front and the rear. The optimal values, the optimal meaning of these angles will be provided by the next postulate, by the principle of two verticals. This is easy to understand that in this case, the elbow is moved back as far as possible when this joint is located under the top of the withers. And this defines the tendency of this angle approach to the 90 degrees angle, which is the best angle for the most efficient work of this joint. The same is happening with the rear. Upper thigh and sciatic bone create the angle close to 90 degrees. And this is also very important because of these correct angulations, which is the reason for the best economical transmission of the motive thrust from the rear to the front. Here are located extensors, and here are located flexors. If this angle is the right one, or 90 degrees, then the joint, this coxofemoral joint or hip, works in the best economical regimen. And extensors also are working the best. It is not indicated here another hind leg which could be placed in front. And then it will be a position of another upper thigh. And in this case, another upper thigh will create with the iliac bone also 90 degrees angle, which is important to the functioning of the flexors. So this postulate create the preconditions for the horizontal top line for the dog on the move, and this postulate create preconditions for the optimal angulations of fore and hind limbs. So we can go on. This is the additional value of the previous postulate, of the postulate based on the two vertical lines. In this case, when the elbow is under the top of withers and stifle is under the tail set, we can find out immediately the special support of the top line in the beginning, please take a look, and at the end. And this mobile support is also important for the violations arising when dog is jumping and falling. These disturbances will be softened at this level. This postulate requires equality of these two segments, length of the body and distance between the front and the rear legs. It could be easily explained. Please try to imagine that there are no any angulations of the limbs, that the dog is deprived of the limbs angulation, and then these limbs will look like the legs of the chair. And distance between two legs of the chair is absolutely equal to the length of the body. Now, coming back to the real dog, we do understand that the body of the dog is moved regarding front and rear legs forward. And if we suppose that they will be moved forward differently regarding forelegs and hind legs, that will lead for the unbalanced movement, because in this case, the front stride and rear stride will be not equal. So, I believe that my explanation of the biomechanical model of each postulate was clear and exhaustive. But should you have any questions, please, at the end of my lecture, send me the questions and I will be very glad to answer them. Now, we can go to the harmonic model of the dog. But before to tell you about the harmonious proportions of the dog exterior, I have to tell you about the tool I use for that. And as the tool, I use the golden section principle, which is the universal principle of the form building, universal form building principle of harmony. Let me explain you something before I will tell you exactly about this illustration. The golden section as the universal form building principle of harmony was well known from the ancient times. Try to remember ancient Egypt and pyramids. Ancient Greece and Parthenon, time of Renaissance. It was well known for the sculptures and architects, but not only. And the term universal is not exaggeration, because the value of this principle is spread all over. I can give you a lot of examples, but this is not a topic of today, so I will advise you to read my book, Dog Conformation and Its Evaluation, which is available in UK in Our Dogs. And you can find there a lot of examples, a lot of illustrations, which will convince you how powerful is this principle. But nevertheless, I need something to use today. And as the example of the golden section influence, I will suggest you to remember the egg. Not just egg, but Easter egg, which Fabergé used as the symbol of harmony. Probably you know that the egg is practically impossible to destroy in your hands, squeezing evenly. And this is not surprisingly, because the egg's construction is according to the golden section. Later on, I will tell you exactly what does it mean. But now on the qualitative level of the explanation, as I told you, its construction is built according to the golden section. And the golden section gives not only the beauty for the eyes, but, which is not less important, which will provide the optimal function of this construction. How is it connected with our lecture? The human eyes, from the nature, are in tune with this principle. That's why we are able, without any knowledge of the harmony laws or some scientific things, from the nature we are able to appreciate the beauty and to differ the beauty from the ugly constructions. How it could be possible? Only because of the golden section. Like our ears, our eyes are in tune with the golden section. And it's impossible to be a musician without the ear not in tune with the golden section. The same. So very briefly, explanation. And now I go to the picture in front of you on the screen. The golden section, as the principle, was formulated by Euclid, who lived 3 centuries before Christ, as the division of the segment in the extreme and mean ratio. What does it mean? The segment O1 is divided by point X according to the extreme and mean ratio if the whole segment, this is 1, to its biggest part, X, this is X, is the same as the biggest part, X, to the smallest one, 1 minus X here. This proportion could be easily transformed into the square equation, and its positive root is indicated here, is noticed here. Square root from 5 minus 1, and all should be divided to 2. If I will calculate this number to receive the rough approximations, for the third approximation, it will be 0.618. Next step will lead to the 0.62, and next one will be 0.6 or 3 to 5. And let me say to you, then this number 3 to 5 will be used in our further explanations and further work as the golden section. Despite this is the rough value, rough meaning. Why? Because mistakes of our measurement exceeds this tail which we neglect. It will be enough if in our work we will use this number. In 16th century, the scientist scientific monk Luca Pacioli wrote the book, and the name of the book was La Proporzione Divina, or Divine Proportion. Other words, proportion given by God. In this book, described 12 features of this proportion, and according to his opinion, the golden section, or earlier named La Proporzione Divina, was the universal law of harmony. The book was illustrated by Leonardo da Vinci, who renamed this name La Proporzione Divina to another one, to Sectio Aureo, or golden section. And namely, this definition is well known until now. 4 centuries before, another Leonardo Fibonacci, from Pisa, was solving another problem, which is far away from our subject. But this is not so important. The important is that he found out the sequence. You can see this sequence here, the first one, which is easily built. 1 + 1 is 2. 1 + 2 is 3. 2 + 3 is 5. 5 + 8 is 13, and on. This sequence could be modified and can look like this one. Each previous member of this sequence, I will divide for the next one. So 1 and 1, I divide 1. Now I divide 1 to 2, it will be 1 second. Then 2/3, 3/5, 5/8, 8/13, and on. It is not surprisingly that we found here the same number which we got here. But why? Not surprisingly. Because the limit of this sequence is the golden section. So it's another way to find out the golden section here. And now it's clear that each member of this second sequence is the approximation of the golden section. It is a rough approximation. It is a more precise approximation. It will be more precisely when we will go far away from the beginning. What is interesting in our case? First of all, I would like to draw your attention to these 3 numbers I highlighted in red. Do they remind you anything? If I will consider them in the reverse way, 2, 1, 1. Of course, there are numbers which define the ideal proportions of the spinal divisions. 2 is back, 1 is loin, and 1 is sacrum. Now you can understand why the first postulate is so important. Its value is not based only on the order, but its value is extremely important. It's so easy to understand that without these initial three numbers, the limit couldn't be reached, and limit means perfection. So the perfection of the dog construction initially is based on these numbers. And if those numbers are violated and the top line proportions are different, then never, ever the perfection of its build will be reached. And this is the moment of truth. So please keep in your mind. And this postulate, as like all others biomechanical postulates, are valid for the majority of the breeds. For the overwhelming majority of the breeds. Of course, there are some exceptions where the biomechanical model is not fully valid, but it is not a topic of today, so I will not consider this matter. 3/5, and please try to remember at least several first members of this sequence. Okay, we can go on. Now, please, harmonic model of the dogs. This is proportion number 1. Small introduction. If we evaluate on the instinctive level the beauty or harmony of the dog, we don't know anything about harmonious proportions. The only our nature, being in tune with the golden section, helps us to say, this is beautiful, this is quite okay, and this is ugly. But different eyes of different persons are in tune with the golden section on different level. Some people have the eyes which are in tune with the golden section very precisely. Another, not so much. And there are people whose eyes are more or less not in tune with the golden section. So any perception, any emotional or visual perception of the dog will be based on the subjective factor. And my task was based on another principle, to find out the proportions of the dog conformation, which can give objective base of the real dog harmony. This is introduction. So I was lucky to find out, to discover these proportions. And now I will tell you one by one. So the green vertical line to the red sloping line is the golden section. What is the reason? Depth of the body. From the brisket to the top of the withers, to the length of the top line, from the first thoracic vertebra spinous processes to the tail set is golden section is 3 to 5. Next one, please. The next proportion is in front of you. Length of the chest to the length of the body creates golden section. One more time, I would like to accentuate that the front point of measurement is the sternum, but not the joint. Otherwise, part of the body placed in front of the humerus scapula will be lost, which means that we will measure not the whole length of the body, but it reduced part. So from the sternum to the end of buttock, to the end of sciatic bone, and here from the same point to this green arch, which is the last full ribs crossing this red line. Try to remember the beginning of my explanation in part of the golden section. This is the whole segment, O1. This is its biggest part. This is its smallest part. So the whole segment to the biggest part is the same as the biggest part to the smallest one. Besides that, it could be considered like 3 to 5. The length of the body to the length of the diameter is 3 to 5. What does it mean, diameter? At the picture, the 2 points, occiput and paw of the rear leg placed behind to the vertical rear pastern. But in reality, these points do not lie in one vertical plane parallel to the longitudinal body axis. So this is the projection of that line. So this is the next harmonious proportion, according to which height at elbow joint, I emphasize, not height at elbow ulna, but height at elbow joint. Joint is working, not ulna. Height at elbow joint to the sum of the head and neck's length, to the sum of head and neck length is the golden section. Very important proportion, like others, but later on I will explain you when we will consider dog on the move. Next one, please. Катюш, пятую пропорцию, пожалуйста.
Уже.
Okay, thank you. So, girth of the muzzle to the girth of the skull is 3 to 5. Probably I will explain now why. Do you remember egg? And its construction is very durable because its shape is built according to the golden section. Cross diameter of the egg to the longitudinal diameter of the leg is 3 to 5. So golden section is the principle of this construction building. The same is here. 3 to 5, which provides the powerful bite. So now in front of you there are dogs on the move. This is picture of the correct extended trot. This is the picture with a skeleton regarding the front and rear limbs constructions. And next one will be the full picture. Now we can evaluate the movement on the dog using our new knowledge. Look at this, please. First of all, you can find that the front and the rear strides are equal. And this is a result of the two blue lines creating so-called pendulum with a 90 degrees at the axis, which define the boundaries of the limbs when they are close to the ground. They swing, they span, is inscribed in this angle. As I told you before, these two lines creating 90 degrees angle by the axis will provide the preconditions for the equality of the front and rear strides. You can see it here. The next point is new for you. I have to add that the vertical lowered from the point of intersection from this point is the special one, because here is located center of gravity, and the limbs from the opposite side are converging to the base of this vertical line. And this is very important because when hind leg is landing, it takes the whole weight of the body at this point. Why is it important? This principle has name principle of converging powers. In our case, that means that the dog will have maximum stability at this stage. Why? Minimum of wobbling. Why? The very easy example. You are staying in the bus. Where should you stay to minimize the wobbling? Yes, you have to stay at the center of gravity. The same is here. Next one, new one for you. This yellow line, yellow vertical line connecting the eye of the dog and paw of the foreleg when landing or close to be landed. This criterion provides the equilibrium of the dog when landing. Easy to explain. The vestibular apparatus is located in the ear, and eye is a bit in front of this point. So it provides equilibrium just a little bit earlier, just a little bit in advance. It's also easy. And also could be considered as the criterion of the extension. If the foreleg reaches the base of this yellow line, then the extended trot will be provided. If no, we will say that movement is not extended enough. So we analyzed the initial picture without any lines when using our new knowledge. And the last one, these two green lines, which are remaining horizontal. So the full complex will give you explanation why the dog on the move, when the dog is trotting, is balanced. And it will be also considered as the criteria of the soundness of the dog when trotting. Ну что ж, пожалуй, мы теперь можем переходить к стандарту. I believe that it is a right time to go to the actual standard of this breed. It was also already considered. Yes. Utilization, hunting dog for all-round purposes. Nordic hunting dog with working trail. Brief historical summary. The native Russian hunting breed is one of the principal hunting dogs of the taiga region, as well as the mountain areas in Central and East Siberia. The breed evolved from the offspring of Tungus, Yakut, pre-Baikal, and pre-Amur laikas. The first description of the pre-Amur laika, which later became the basis of the breed standard, dates from the beginning of 20th century. In 1947, East Siberian laika achieved breed status. In 1949, the provisional standard was published, and in 1981, the final standard was approved. Nowadays, the East Siberian laika is widespread in its native original areas. Foundation stock from kennels with the dogs well established in type and ability to work has been introduced to the Irkutsk region of the Russian Federation. There is a vast population of the breed in the European part of Russia, especially in the Leningrad, Smolensk, and Tver regions, and part of Moscow region. The East Siberian laika is also appreciated in Scandinavia. General appearance. Dog of medium size with a strong and compact build. I will stop at this point. In front of you, there is a skeleton inside the dog. Compactness means that the loin is short. Sometimes they use another definition, short-coupled dog, or dog with a short coupling. This is the same. Compactness depends on the short loins, because it defines distance between chest and the rear parts. And in this case, when loin is short, this distance is short and the body is compact. And this term doesn't depend on the format of the dog. Dog could be square-bodied, could be long-bodied, could be very long-bodied, and compactness could be provided in each case only based on the short loin. And the best example you can keep in your mind, this is a dachshund. Very long-bodied dog should be compact only because of the short loin. So please do not, how should I say it in English? Do not substitute two things, square-bodied dog and compact dog. Square-bodied dog could be not compact if its loin is long. Okay. Oh. The length of the body from the forechest to the buttocks is slightly superior to the height at withers. The head is rather big and very strong, and this is a very specific feature of this breed, unlike other laika breeds. Big and strong. The muscles are well developed, strong bone structure, more powerful in males than in females. Sexual dimorphism is clearly pronounced. Important proportions. Males almost rectangular to rectangular and females slightly longer. The term rectangular is very often used for the description of the format. And this is not the best term, because dachshund, German Shepherd, Fila Brasileiro, Doberman have rectangular build. I mentioned Doberman because modern Doberman could be built according to the 110%. But at the same time, Fox Terrier and even Azawak have rectangular shape, because the square is the partial example of the rectangle. So much better is to indicate how long-bodied is the dog. And in our case, it is from 100 to 109 for the males and 100 to 111 to the females. The height at withers exceeds the height at the croup by 1 to 2 centimeters, males, and it is equal or exceeds the height in the croup by 1 centimeter, females. The length of the muzzle is slightly less than the half of the length of the head. The height from ground to elbow is equal to half the height at the withers. One more time, please don't forget. Then you usually are measuring height at elbows at the level of elbow ulna. And this level should be considered as the level dividing the whole segment into 2 equal parts. Should be placed in the middle, this joint, is placed in the middle of this distance from the top of the withers to the ground. Behavior and temperament. Steady, balanced temperament. A vigorous dog with a very well-developed sense of scent and detection of game and pronounced passion for hunting, especially larger prey. Very independent when hunting, friendly, kind, and trustful towards people. Head. Strong, rather big in proportion to the body. Wedge-shaped, it forms an equilateral triangle when viewed from above. Cranial area is relatively broad, especially in males. So you can see in front and almost in front and almost in profile. Now I will read details of the head description. Cranial region, skull. The length of the skull is slightly more than its width. Superciliary arches are only slightly developed. Sagittal crest and occiput are well pronounced. It is covered by the hair, so invisible here. Stop, gradually and moderately pronounced. Facial region, nose. Black of medium size. In white and fawn dogs, a brownish nose is tolerated. Muzzle. The length of the muzzle is a little less than the length of the skull. Viewed in profile, the muzzle is wedge-shaped, moderately blunt. Lips moderately tight but not pendulous. Jaws, teeth. Teeth wide, large, strong, well developed, and evenly positioned. Evenly positioned. Complete 42 teeth, dental formula, scissor bite. Cheeks, cheekbones pronounced but not exaggerated. Eyes, medium-sized, oval-shaped, slanting, neither deep-set nor protruding, with a trustful and friendly expression. The eyes are dark brown or any shade of brown in accordance with the coat color. Ears, pricked, mobile, V-shaped with a pointed or slightly rounded. Tips. Ears set wide, in line with the eyes. Ear lobes are developed slightly. Inner part of the ear is well coated. Neck. Muscular, dry, round or slightly oval in the cross section. The length is equal to that of the head or a little bit shorter. The neck is set at approximately 40 to 50 degrees to the horizontal. Body. Top line firm and straight, sloping from the withers to the tail set slightly. Withers, well developed, pronounced, especially in males. rising above the top line by 1 to 2 centimeters, moderately developed in females. Back, straight, strong, well muscled. Well muscled, moderately broad. Loin, short, moderately broad, well muscled, and slightly prominent. Chest, broad, deep. The chest reaches the point of the elbow or 1 or 2 centimeters below. It could be below the ulna and could reach level of the elbow joint. But this is inside, and this is the outside, what we see in reality. Long, oval-shaped in lateral cross-section. Long, I accentuate. Chest is long. Underline and belly tucked up. The underline from the chest to the abdominal cavity rises slightly. Now let us analyze the standard provisions. In the standard is nothing about the length of the back. But at the same time, it is noticed, and I have accentuated that the chest is long. That means that the back is long because the back is upper part of the chest. And considered together with a short loin, it gives us the idea of the correct proportion according to the golden section, when 2 units fall on the back, 1 unit falls on the loin, and 1 unit falls on the sacrum, or upper part of the group. Tail, curled or in sickle-shaped, carried over the back. A sickle-shaped tail carried without touching the back or semi-dropped is acceptable. When fully straightened, it reaches the hook joint or maybe 1 to 2 centimeters shorter. Limbs, forequarters, general appearance. Legs lean, muscular. The term lean should be considered not as the thin bone, but as the tight skin. Skin should be tight around the forelegs without any wrinkles. Muscular, viewed from the front, are straight, moderately wide set and parallel. The height of the forelegs from the elbow to the ground is equal to half of the height at width. It was already considered. Shoulder. Shoulder blades are long, muscular, and moderately laid back. Upper arm, long, moderately oblique, muscular. The angle between the shoulder blade and the upper arm is well pronounced. Elbow, fitting close to the body. Point of the elbows are well developed and placed back parallel to the axis of the body. Forearm, straight, dry, muscular, rounded the cross section. viewed from the front moderately wide and parallel. Pastern, not long, slightly inclined when viewed from the side. Viewed from the side. Forefeet, round or slightly oval. Arched with tighty, neat toes. Hindquarters, general appearance, muscular, with well-defined angulations of all articulations. First, second, third articulation. When viewed from the rear, the legs are straight and parallel. Thigh, upper thigh, moderately long, placed slightly obliquely. Stifle, well bent. Lower thigh, long, placed obliquely, not shorter than the upper thigh. Rear pastern, placed almost vertically. Seen from the side, the perpendicular line from buttocks to the ground should fall close to the front of the rear pastern or slightly further off it. Hind feet, round or slightly oval, arched with a tighty knit toes. Hind feet are slightly smaller than the forefeet. Gait, movement, free mover. Typical movement is far-reaching trot, alternating with a gallop or walking pace. Walking pace has another term, ambling. Let us consider some important points of this part of the standard. It is noticed that the shoulder as well as the upper arms are moderately laid back. At the same time, when dog is trotting, the standard requires the far-reaching trot. And we know that the extension of the forelegs are depending on several conditions, and one of them is the humeroscapular angulation, plus slope of the shoulder blade, plus length of the forelegs altogether. If the upper thigh is slanted backwards moderately, that means that the angulation in front are only moderate, and the far-reaching could not be provided. And it seems that we have the contradiction, but I have to explain you that this translation doesn't bring the full sense of the initial Russian description, because in Russia the term moderate is based on the root measure, умеренный, мера. In the term moderate, this root is absent. So, but anyway, I would say that the shoulder blade and upper arm are laid back reasonably, and the reason is to provide the far-reaching movement. And then you cannot find any contradictions. So please keep in your mind this explanation. Alternating with a gallop or walking pace. Walking pace, I told you last time at the previous lecture that according to the Russian hunting tradition, when dogs are judging in the ring, it is very typical to let them move walking, not trotting. And when the dogs are walking, then the fore and hind limbs move not contrary usually, but in the same phase, both in front, both forward or both backwards. This is the point which was mentioned in the description of the movement. Skin, sufficiently thick and elastic without any folds and subcutaneous cellular issue. Coat, hair. Outer coat is harsh and straight. Undercoat is well developed, soft, rich, and woolly. The coat on the head and ears is dense, short, and shining. The coat on the shoulders and the neck is longer than on the body and forms collar. On the cheekbones, it forms side whiskers. Limbs are covered with a short, harsh, dense coat, which is only slightly longer on the back side of the fore. Covered on the back side of the forelegs. Here. The coat on the back of the rear legs form trousers without feathering. There is the protective growth of the brush-like hair between the tooth. The tail is profusely covered with a straight and harsh hair that is just slightly longer on the underside, but without feathering. Color. The most typical color are black and tan, black, black and white, white and white with patches, piebald. Slight specks in shades of the main color are permitted on legs. Size. Males 57 to 64 centimeters, females 53 to 60 centimeters. So you can see that this is the biggest representative of the laika's breeds and strongest one. Faults. Deviation from the sexual characteristics, prominent forehead and snipey muzzle, partly missing pigmentation of the nose, lips and eyelids, pale pigmented nose, absence of not more than 4 premolars, PM1 and PM2, pincer bite after the age of 6 years, teeth small and sparsely set, light or amber colored eyes in dogs with all black coat color, big ears, set low, soft in the ear, carriage, not enough hair inside the ears, neck to oval in the cross section, soft or roached back, loin long, straight or arched, croup horizontal or steep, flat-ribbed chest, narrow, lacking forechest, shallow, straight shoulders, both forearms, elbows turned out or inwards, upright or weak in pasterns, east-west pointing feet, pigeon-toed feet, hindquarters slightly lacking correct angulations, cow-hooked. Splayed or soft feet, insufficiently developed hair between the toes, rear dew clothes, restricted gait, color specks in nuances of base color on the body or head. Severe faults. Obvious deviation from the sexual characteristics. Slight intolerance to people. Obese or meager. Coarse in the head. Short mouth. Snipy nose. Deep or hardly visible stop. More than 4 missing premolars, including PM1 and PM2. Round protruding eyes, ears with the rounded tips, overdeveloped ear lobes. Square-bodied, overbuilt, light in bone, overangulated or straight in hindquarters. Narrow in hindquarters, knees or hocks turning out. Heavy, erratic movement or pacing. Wrinkled, loose skin. Long coat on the back side of the forequarters and pronounced feathering on the back of thighs and tail. Wavy, curly, soft or too long coat. Coat parting in the middle, in the back, and the withers during shedding. Specks on the body which are not in the nuance of the main color. Deviation from the size by more than plus minus 2 centimeters. Disqualifying faults. Aggressive or overly shy. Any dogs clearly showing physical or behavior abnormalities. Incorrect bite. Wry mouth, 4 or more missing teeth regardless, including PM1, PM2, or M3, excess in sizes. Wall eye, flecked eyes, ear dropped, semi-dropped, stumpy tail, too short or too long coat, no undercoat. Coat color that is genetic brown, genetic blue, brindle, or albino. And notably, as usually, male animals should have 2 apparently normal testicles, fully descended into scrotum, and only functionally and clinically healthy dogs will breed. Typical conformation should be used for breeding. This is the standard. Let us look at the pictures. So, hunting people are very special, and they are much more interested in the hunt than in the shows. So the dogs, it's very difficult to find in the correct zootechnical stance. But anyway, what could we see here? Medium long-bodied dog with an excellent depth of the body, with a rather strong head. But look, this is the female. So for the female, this size and massiveness of the head is okay. Neck is set a bit too high, but probably because of the leash tension. Withers are pronounced. Quite okay is back and loin regions, a little bit too low set tail. and semicircle, which is tolerated, as you remember. The angulations could be better, either front or rear. Coat condition is quite okay. This is what we could find and described in this picture. Another example, also female, very long body. About the vertical proportion, we can say only approximately because of the grass. You can see the feet are rather deep in grass. So, very long body with enough depth of the chest. The head is long, but should be stronger, especially the muzzle. And the stop is too deep. Long and muscular neck, enough pronounced withers, correct top line and tail set, enough angulated in shoulders, and straight behind because of the upper thigh, which is not long enough. That's why dog is not able to sit a little bit on the knees when this shape could indicate the prominence, the slight, at least slight prominence of the stifles. Okay, typical color, quite good coat condition, and we can go on. Next one, please. Another example, medium long bodied, deep chested, quite strong in bones. Head could be larger and stronger. A bit too deep stop. Medium length of neck, pronounced withers. The top line further is going slightly up to the rear, so it's slightly overbuilt bitch. Correct front angulations, straight behind because of the short upper thigh. Maybe this is the time to say to you that in general there are two elements in the body dog body construction which are able to destroy the harmony and soundness. These two elements are loin and upper thigh. Loin tendency is to be lengthened. Upper thigh tendency is to be shortened. In first case, when loin is long, dog with loose compactness. In case when the upper thigh is short, the dog will be overbuilt, like here. Coat is in a good condition. Typical color. We can go on. Also 3/4 picture, probably slightly long-bodied, enough in the depth of the body, good in the bones, large and strong head with a typical expression, medium long neck, pronounced withers, correct top line after the withers, correct tail set and tail shape, straight in front. You can see the elbow joint is here and the withers is here, and vertical line lowered from the withers is going behind the elbow joint. You remember the principle of two verticals? It's violated here, and that's why the front angulation is open, straightened, and the hind legs are also straightened. You can see there is any sign of the stifle. So upper thigh and second thigh create almost one straight line, and also the angle of the hock is very open. Typical color, good coat condition. In this case, long-bodied, probably bitch, yes, with a good depth of the body, strong in bones. Head is big enough, but this is the bitch, so we can tolerate it. Pronounced withers, strong enough back, a little bit overbuilt. The croup rump is here, and this line is a little bit rising towards the rump. Excellent developed chest and forechest. Probably correct angulations of the in front. It's difficult to evaluate exactly because of this head turned to us. Correct angulations of the rear. Good coat condition, correct furnishing of the tail. That's it. A little bit low set ears, but it could depend on the moment. If the dog is not attentive, it could be. Go on. Long-bodied, high-legged, overbuilt bitch. Light in the head, especially in the muzzle. Too deep stop. Long neck, developed withers, soft back. Top line is rising towards the rump. Chest should be deeper, enough developed forechest, straight in front. Look at the shoulder blade and upper arm. And do not forget that the elbow joint should be under the withers. And correct angulations of the rear. Coat is not in the full condition, and it's difficult to say something precisely about the tail because of the moment. Another example, and this is probably also female. So moderately long body with a good depth of the body, strong enough in bones. Body is solid. Head is large enough, but quite strong. A long neck, carried a bit too low, developed withers, correct top line to the correct tail set from the withers. Enough developed forechest, almost correct front angulations, correct rear angulations. Coat is not in the full condition. Typical color. So, go on, please. So, in front of you, there is another breed. Very beautiful breed. This is Yakutian laika. I have to repeat the same things regarding biomechanical model and the harmonic model. So let us look step by step. I will not repeat everything because the explanation will be absolutely similar. The only visual impressions could help you to perceive correctly this dog specifics. So the same with absolutely same lines. The only thing I would like to add, like in the previous case, sorry, I have forgotten to tell you about that. Now I will mention. 211 is the principle of the top line construction, of the top line proportion. There is another example of this number's influence. Along the vertical line from the ground to the top of the top line, to the first thoracic vertebra spinous processes. Like in previous case, here the elbow joint, not ulna, is located in the middle of this distance. Like for the majority of the breeds, shoulder blade length and upper arm length are equal. And the slants regarding the horizon are the same. They are inclined to the horizon contrary. That's why the vertical projections will be equal. And this is the second part, the second half of the height divided into equal parts. That's why we will find out here also 2, 1, 1. And the whole dog picture is built according to the first initial members of Fibonacci sequence. So the dog's conformation at the basic level is already in tune with the golden section. It is the first rough tuning. Do not forget it, please. For the majority of the breeds, this is valid. Смотрим дальше. So the first postulate, 211, is here. The second, 90 degrees by the axis of the pendulum, is here. 2 horizontals are here. 2 verticals are here. The center of gravity is located at the vertical, dropped from the point of intersection of these 2 blue lines. And we can see these principles separately. So 2 horizontal lines, 2 vertical lines, they are located absolutely similarly to the previous ones. Пожалуйста, дальше. This is the addition to the postulate of two verticals. You remember that? Here is the special mobile support of the top line at its ends, in the beginning and at the end. And this reminds you that the length of the body and distance between front and hind legs are equal if the dog is placed into the correct zootechnical stance. This is the picture which showing that the center of gravity is located on this vertical line, lowered from the point of intersection. And these blue lines create the boundaries of the swing of the limbs when the dog is trotting close to the ground. Here you can see dog on the move. Dog is trotting. And one more time, only at the emotional or instinctive level, you can appreciate this kind of movement. It looks nicely, but the full explanation to be given on the next step. Here you can see the skeleton of the front legs and skeleton of the hind legs. And the next picture, please. And this is the full explanation of the movement which you appreciate as balanced. And because this is maybe new for you, I will repeat. This is important to know exactly why what we see is really balanced. First of all, the length of the front and the rest rides. Second, that the vertical line dropped from this angle defines the base to which legs from the opposite side are converging. And this is a point providing the best position of stability when dog is moving at this stage, and which is minimizing the wobbling of the body. These blue lines define the boundaries of the swing of the limbs when dog is moving close to the ground. These limbs, they swing, is inscribed in this pendulum. Yellow line connecting eye and paw of the foreleg when landing or close to it provides the equilibrium at this stage, because the eye is a bit in advance to the vestibular apparatus, to the acoustic center of the equilibrium. And the last one, these green lines, are remaining parallel and horizontal. That's why you can see that the top line remains solid and the spinal column, which is inside, remains level, horizontal. So altogether, it gives the picture which could be evaluated as the example of a very well balanced moving dog, trotting dog. You saw already this picture, and I have already given the explanation what is noticed here. So the only important for you is to remember that the golden section in our practice is 0.6 or 3 to 5. This is the first. And the second, that these three numbers, 1, 1, 2, or in the reverse order, 2, 1, 1, define ideal proportions of the back, loin, and sacrum of the dogs of majority breeds. One more time, let me mention that these numbers, 1, 1, 2, provide the initial tuning to the golden section of the dog structure. And without them, the perfection of this structure could not be reached, because otherwise, without these numbers, this sequence or that one could not be built, and the limit will be not the golden section. So now harmonious proportions of the dogs. And in the same order, you can see that the depth of the body, of the chest, to the length of the top line from the first thoracic vertebra, spinous processes, to the tail set is the golden section, is green to red is 3 to 5. Next one, please. Length of the chest to the length of the body is golden section, or 3 to 5, or 3 to 5. Okay, further please. Ratio between length of the body and length of the diameter is the golden section. Small explanation. The dog is standing. When dog starts moving, the head is moving forward as well. For the counterbalance, the hind leg will move backwards. Then this line will be lengthened. Let us imagine that the first, it will be walk. So then length of this segment will be slightly lengthening. Then dog starts trotting, and the strides are going longer, and this line will be lengthening. But coming back to the stance, this length will be the same like here. So any deviations of this length will be around this initial segment length, which is according to the golden section in the comparison to the length of the body. Height at elbows, at elbow joint, to the sum of head and neck length is the golden section. And now it's a time to give some explanation, because we have already seen dogs on the move. Now you can understand that the length of the foreleg and the total length of the head and neck should match each other. Otherwise, this criterion of the yellow line will be not reached, and the dog's movement will be not extended. And now the last proportion, like before, is the ratio between girth of the muzzle and girth of the skull, 3:5. This ratio provides the most powerful bite. That's it. So, all postulates and all proportions are now considered using the example of the Yakutian laika. We can read now the standard, analyze it, and give some comments. Yakutskaya laika in Russian, Yakutian laika in English. The standard is recognized by the FCI on the provisional level. The date of publication of the official valid standard is 4th of September 2019. Utilization, sledge and hunting dog. Section 1, Nordic sledge dogs with working trail. Brief historical summary. The Yakutian laika is an ancient native dog breed which was naturally bred by Aboriginal people of the northeast of Russia, and as the sled dog and a hunting dog. Certain archaeological discoveries confirm that the local people used dogs for the sledging and hunting as far back as 8,000 years ago. The very first references about dogs in this region date back to 1633. The first published account on the Yakutian dogs were entitled How Yakutians Travel in the Winter, which was included in the book Northern and Eastern Tartary by Nicholas Whitson, Amsterdam, 1692. The first description of the Yakutian laika appeared in the book Geography of the Russian Empire, 1843, which announced it to be a dog of special breed. The first mention of the Yakutian laika's total number found in the book Statistical Tables of the Russian Empire, St. Petersburg, 1856. There are 15,157 dogs in the Yakut region used for sled work. The first breed standard for the Northeast sled dog was adopted in 1958, and it formed the basis of the Yakutian laika. A breed standard published in 2005 by the Russian Kinological Federation. For many centuries, the Yakutian laika accompanied the northern men in everyday life, helping them to hunt, vigilantly watch his home, herd reindeers, and transport goods in the severe conditions of the far north. These skills have glorified the Yakutian laika as a versatile breed, not only in Russia, but also in many countries on different continents. Different general appearance. General appearance. Yakutian laika is a dog of medium-sized, strong, compact, well-muscled, with moderately long legs, and thick skin with no sign of looseness. Let us analyze these provisions. Compact. We remember short in loin or short coupled. Moderately long legs. Look at the dog in total. If you look at this dog, the forelegs do not look long. They look long enough. But this is what we see from outside. But inside, we can find out quite another length of the forelegs. And it will be reflected in the numbers. Now let's go to the picture we saw just before. The coat is well, with the moderately long legs and thick skin with no sign of looseness. The coat is well developed and should be sufficient for living and working in the severe Arctic conditions. Sexual dimorphism is clearly pronounced. Males are stronger and more powerful than females. Important proportions. Length of the body from the point of shoulder to the point of buttocks exceeds the height at withers but by 10 to 15%. The forechest is slightly developed, so to measure from the sternum or from the shoulder joint, there is no big difference. And it is easier to measure this distance for the dog which profusely coated from the very visible point. That's why it is noticed in the standard. But it will be not a big mistake if you will measure from sternum to the buttock. The length of the head is a bit less than 40%. You can see that the head is not a big one. A bit less than the 40%, which is norm for the majority of the breeds in the average. Length of the muzzle is 38 to 40% of the head. The length of the forelegs to the elbow is 52 to 54% of the length at withers. That means that the elbow joint is rather low placed than the elbow ulna. And if we measure at the level of the elbow joint, we will find the same proportion 2:1:1 along this vertical line. I have already given the explanation, but if necessary, I could repeat it. Behavior. Yakutian laika is bold, lively, close to men, friendly, sociable, and energetic dog. Head. Wedge-shaped, moderately pointed, proportional to dog's size. Head is a wedge-shaped, moderately pointing, pointed, proportional to a dog's size. cranial region, skull, moderately broad, slightly rounded, with a sufficiently high forehead. We'll see it in profile. Stop, well pronounced. So we can see the head in profile, and in general, this is a very beautiful dog, which was the idea of drawing you saw before. No, so of big size, with wide nostrils, black or brown in color. Muzzle, well filled under the eyes, wedge-shaped, gradually tapering towards the tip of the nose. Lips, dry, tight-fitting, well pigmented. Jaws, teeth. Teeth are strong, white, preferably in a complete set, 42 teeth according to the dental formula. A scissors bite or level bite, scissors bite or level bite. A tight undershot without a gap is acceptable for the dogs older than 3 years. Keep in your mind, please. Cheeks, moderately pronounced. Ears, set straight and wide, but not deep, almost shaped. Eyes color is dark brown or blue, as well as odd eyes, one brown, one blue, or blue segments on brown iris. Dry, tight-fitting eye rims matching the color of the nose. Depigmented eye rim against white background permissible. Ears of triangle shape, set high, wide at the base, thick, erect or half pricked. Also, please keep in your mind specifics. Ears covered with a thick short hair, ears laid back while moving. Neck of moderate set and length, muscular. Body is compact. Please take a look. Short loin. Top line straight and firm, with a very slight slope from the moderately pronounced withers to the base of the tail. Back. Firm, wide, straight, muscular. Loin short, wide, muscular. Croup wide, muscular, long, rounded, almost horizontal. If we consider the upper part of the croup, it's horizontal. Chest broad with the well-sprung ribs, long enough, moderately deep. Underline and the belly slightly tucked up. So let us analyze against the provisions of this standards part. First of all, dog is compact. Short loin. Short loin, if the whole top line is unchanged and we don't change the length of the sacrum of the rump, leads to the long back, long actual back. Other words, to the long thoracic part of the spine. And the principle 211 is valid for this top line. Group wide, muscular, long. I have explained before that the length of the sacrum and the length of the entire group are not contradictive. One more time. Upper part of the group or sacrum or rump, according to this ratio, is short. This is 1/4 of the top line. And this is a really short part of the top line. And the whole group is long. And the length of the group is resulted mostly because of the long sciatic bones. So these two requirements, short sacrum and long group, are not contradictive. Tail. Tail set high, covered with a thick furry coat, curled up as semicircle on the dog's back, sickle curved tail allowed. At the rest or in long distance movement, tail may hang loosely. Limbs. Forelegs, general appearance. Straight, parallel, strong, well muscled. Shoulder. Shoulder blade sloping, of moderate length. Upper arm. Muscular, sloping, of moderate length. Elbow set well to the body, placed backward. Forearm rather long, parallel. Pastern short, strong, slightly sloping. Forefeet well arched, with a right fitting toes and very hard pads. Thick coat brush between toes. Coming in advance, looking at the characteristics of the gait, I have to say that characteristic gait are brisk trot and gallop. Brisk or fast trot is extended trot, well extended trot. An extension of the trot is based on the length of the strides, either front or rear, which ideally should be equal. And length of the front stride is based on the humeroscapular angle, shoulder blade slope, and foreleg length. In the standard is written that let me read it again. That the shoulder are of moderate length as well as the upper arms. One more time, I have to repeat that the moderate is not quite correct translation of the Russian term умеренный. Умеренный is based on the root mera. Mera is measure. And measure is not included in the term moderate. So the measure is the function, and function is that extended trot. So the length of shoulder blade, and upper arm should match the well-extended trot. This is the reason which is included in the description of the forelegs construction. Maybe it would be better to translate this moderate as the reasonable instead of moderate. But anyway, I gave the explanation, and I believe that it is clear now what I mean. Hindquarters, general appearance, strong boned and well muscled, seen from the side, seen from the rear, straight and parallel. Thigh, broad and muscular. Stifle, well defined. Lower thigh, of medium length, strong. Hock joints angulation is well defined. Rear pastern, strong vertical. Hind feet, well arched with the tight fitting toes and very hard pads. Thick coat brush between toes, slightly bigger than the front feet. One more time, we found here the characteristics of the thighs using the term moderate. And the explanation will be the same. I would use better the term reasonable. Gait movement, fast, elastic. Characteristic gaits are brisk trot and gallop. Coat, hair, thick, glossy, straight, coarse, of medium length, with very well developed thick and dense undercoat. On the neck it forms a mane, especially clearly pronounced in males. At this picture you can find a drawing very similar to the photo you saw already. Beautiful built dog. Coat, hair. So on the neck it forms a mane, especially clearly pronounced in males, thick feathers on the back sides of the front and hind legs. The tail feathered with a small fringe. Coat is shorter on the head and front sides on the legs. Color, white and any patching, bicolor or tricolor. Size, 55 to 59, females, 53 to 57. Severe faults, strong deviation from the type short-legged dog. Square in body, flat-ribbed, shallow or barrel chest, poorly balanced, sluggish movement, wavy, soft to short hair with a poorly developed undercoat. Disqualifying faults, aggressive or overly shy, any dogs clearly showing physical or behavioral abnormalities, males in feminine type, overshot, undershot with a gap. Any gap is unacceptable. Right jaw, total depigmentation of nose, eye rims or lips, any solid color except white, short, smooth hair, any behavioral or constitutional deviations affecting the health of the dog and its ability to perform the work traditional for this particular breed. And as usually nota bene, about the testicles and functionally and clinically healthy dogs. This is the standard. My idea regarding this breed and its description, as well as its visual image for you, is not to demonstrate badly constructed dogs, because this breed is not so widespread. And my idea is to focus your attention on the correct bull dogs with the small folds. So let us look at these pictures. So it's profile of the head. So everything is so clear that I do not need to describe it. So this is the example which we used as the prototype of the drawing you saw in the very beginning. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous dog. I cannot give you any comments regarding the demerits. I can only describe the merits, which are on the very high level. Gorgeous dog. Please try to print in your mind this image. So, long-bodied bitch with a medium depth of the body. Head size and shape are in the accordance with the standard. Not a big, with a correct profile, erect ears. Rather long neck, top line is firm, withers could be better developed. Chest is deep, below the level of the elbows, straight in front. Look at the shoulder blade and look at the upper arm. Upper arm is almost upright. And without this explanation, you can find immediately why I'm saying straight in front. Because of the elbows, which are not under the withers. Enough angulated in the rear. You can see almost straight line from the flanks to the hock inner part, inner edge. And this is the point of knee, which should be better pronounced. So upper thigh is a bit too short and almost vertical, instead of to be longer and slightly slanted forward. This is the summertime, so the coat condition differs from the winter coat. Correct color. As I promised, judges could find here the universal reference points, which can help them to increase the objectivity of the assessments. Really, when they are examine the dog top line with the hands, they will find out borders between back and loin, between loin and sacrum, and it will be very easy to understand if this point is in the middle of the top line and that one is in the middle of the rest. And if they find it, that means that at this level, dog is constructed the best. They can check levels of the humeral scapula and hip joint. And if these joints are located at the one horizontal line, this is good. And when the second horizontal line is located correctly, connected the elbow joint and stifle, that means that at this level, dog is balanced and protected against the overbuilt construction, or either when standing or when moving. The judge could find out immediately if the elbow is under the withers and stifle joint is under the tail set, and understand if the angulations in front of the rear are okay and in balance in between. This is for the judges. For the breeders, this phenomenon 2-1-1 along the top line and the same 2-1-1 along the vertical line will give them the key for tuning the dog construction to the golden section at the initial level. And the result will be amazing. If dog is constructed according to this ratio 2-1-1, along and vertically, the harmonious proportions will be provided, or they will be very close to it. Okay, thank you very much. Should you have any questions, I am ready to answer them.
No, I do not see any questions here in the question section. So I think everybody is full of information.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And at the end of the year, we will have the only one breed at the next lecture, and it will be Samoyed. Beautiful breed, and we'll have a lot of time, plenty of time for questions, for answers, should you need them. One more time, thank you very much, and see you next time. And Merry Christmas to all of you.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.